Hi, my name is Taylor Vanderhelm. I'm a designer with the Editor Extensions team here at GitLab. This is iteration 2 on the adding Duo Chat rules to VS Code. So this one's a little bit more ambitious for our ideal future state. So you can see the problem defined, details on the proposal here, areas that we need engineering input still, and some ideas on future state. So if we go down to the design management, we'll do a quick walkthrough. So the idea is we would add a secondary menu to the top panel. Within there, you have chat rules. You click that, open this custom file editor. Advanced settings would instead take you to the just standard extension settings. So going back to chat rules, we open this. Claude told me that it's possible to have a custom file editor within a web view, but this still needs confirmation from engineering. But essentially, you want to draw attention that we are in chat rules, have a little explanation that this applies to the local workspace, and ideally link to even a template file or some documentation, because users are going to need some guidance on how to write effective rules, and it could also be a place where they could copy some good ones that have already been made for different use cases. From there, we would also have the ability to set the file name, so we could have the user name it themselves. I've got a few ideas. Maybe we have a directory, like a user directory inside Duo, and that just gets added to the git ignore so that those don't get pushed to the repo. Or perhaps we use a custom file extension, again, just to target both which files get added to the git ignore, but also which files get shown in the custom file editor. We don't want to show this editor to every Markdown file, for example. The other thing to be aware of is there is potentially a risk for prompt injection attacks. So perhaps when the file is created or saved, we might want to scan it. Another future state would be rule type. So how this could work is you have a drop-down, open it, and you might be able to set rules for different use cases. This is where the custom file extension could come in handy, where you can target that depending on what type of rule type they've set. So for example, you've got global, applies to every chat request, but we might also want, say, to match files to set custom rules depending on certain patterns. So for example, all Markdown files, or maybe certain files within a particular directory, get their own set of custom rules. The other idea would be to allow manual files. So these rules would only get set if the user takes initiative to do it themselves. So essentially, doesn't get added to anything, but when they do want it, they can add it as a context source, allowing them to better target specific use cases. And then looking forward, even when we add agent mode, maybe we have different ones like plan or write. Users might want to target user-specific rules at these use cases. The last thing worth mentioning is I think we should use Markdown, just because it's a natural language, easy to understand, and less prone to formatting errors. For example, YAML is space sensitive, which could just make it a little more difficult than it needs to be. Moving forward to a future state. So here's an idea. If we did expand to more project level Duo rules, we could use similar patterns. Inside .gitlab, we have, say, a Duo directory. In there, we could even have the ability to set project level / commands. For example, you might want to use the namespace and customize, say, /fix to be more useful for your particular use case. / commands are difficult when they're very generic to be super effective, but they can be very effective when they're customized for particular scenarios. So giving the user control of that could be really useful. Same thing as user rules. Projects might want to have their own rules directory to enforce, say, style guides on the code. And another idea out of scope, but just worth mentioning here, is what about the ability to add a .duo ignore file that could be only for permission users. Perhaps they set some code owners rules around it. And the other idea was, we could also add directories as we add more forms of Duo. So perhaps Duo Workflow gets its own directory, or Duo Code Review Bot might want its own rules that are specific to when it's doing code review that are different than individual users or the project human code authors. So a few ideas. Please check it out. In the issue description, you will find links to some examples here, but please drop feedback in the issue. Thank you.